WarioWare.
There he is.
Started all the way back in 2003 with the first game, WarioWare Inc. Mega Microgames, with a $sign as the S. Technically, the microgame idea appeared even before that in Mario Artist, which is Japanese exclusive, but many of you watching probably already know that, so let's just jump forward to the main point of this video. Microgames are a very interesting thing to look at from a design standpoint. You have to make it instantly understandable with what you're presented with visually, along with a phrase. They all have to be unique. They must be simple while still offering some kind of challenge. They have to be able to be played at faster rates. There's 3 different levels of difficulty for each game, and there's much more beyond that. For this video, I kind of want to dissect these microgames and their unique design process to make them individually, how they're used in the game, and the many different unique modes the developers use them to make them more interesting. You guys know Super Mario Bros., right? The first level is fantastically designed, teaching the player about how to control Mario with obstacles such as Goombas, level increases in difficulty in subtle ways, and then it gives you a clear goal by letting you only go to the right and not letting you go back, therefore constantly pushing you to the pole. All this done in just one level. Now take that same concept and compress it down to 5-second microgames. It's really fascinating, so let's take a closer look at these games, specifically the intro games, since, they're just that, microgames that introduce you to the concept. More specifically, let's look at one singular microgame, the Wario Digest one. You're hit with the prompt, unlodge, that says dislodge, you dipshit, set in the beautiful location of Wario's bowels. You see something very out of place sticking out of the stomach. It could be a fork, a shuriken, a man with very long hair. With these 3 things alone, many players would be able to find out what to do. The prompt dislodge gives you your objective. The location of the stomach and the obvious out of place objects help you identify what that objective is, all done in the span of just like 1 second when the microgame appears. It also helps that the microgames are also very simple, with one very clear goal. There's nothing to confuse the player, nor does it overcomplicate things. You simply need to dislodge the object from the stomach and you win. While they may be simple though, the microgame still needs to have some challenge to it. So for this game, they have it where you must maneuver around some walls to get to your destination. This might not seem like much, but since these games go by so fast, you'll need to maneuver yourself around very quickly, especially when the game speeds up. Not only that, but the developers need to make different difficulties for each different microgame. Each one has 3 difficulty levels, easy, medium, and hard. For the Wario Bowels one, you must dislodge one object around a very small obstacle. The second is a more complex maze, and the final one you have to dislodge multiple objects. What makes this even more difficult to put together is, despite the 3 difficulty stages, they still have to be immediately understandable no matter which one you do, because someone might encounter one of these microgames at the hardest difficulty, so when they do, it still needs to be immediately understandable. The speed is also an aspect that you really need to consider, because these games could go quite fast, so the microgame needs to be properly played at such speed. Which is what plays into the factor on why these microgames are so simple, because at faster difficulties, if they were any more complicated than just removing the object, there'd be problems. And all this needs to be taken into account for just making one microgame. But now take that design philosophy and apply it to like 200 of them, each one having to be different and unique from one another. Not only that, but for Get It Together specifically, they need to be completely playable with all the characters presented in the game, which is a lot. Some characters work better than others. Take Wario's Bowels, for example. If you're playing with a character that can't jump, these rings are placed so you can actually reach the goal. But they are vastly different from one another. Some can fly, shoot projectiles, some can teleport, and so on. There are some characters that are quite redundant simply because there is another characters that can just do what they do, but better. Take 9-Volt, for example. He goes back and forth automatically and can shoot vertically, but Mike can shoot vertically as well, and he's able to move freely around. So why is 9-Volt even here? Well, one is self-imposed challenge. Yeah, Mike is clearly the better option, but if you want to be more challenging on yourself, then you can go ahead and pick a more difficult character to make things more exciting. It's like a NASCAR race. You could drive one of the more fastest, most recent models, or you can use a bike with a jet turbine attached to it. It's more difficult to control, but it makes things a lot more exciting, especially when you crash. Admittedly though, this does make many of the microgames feel a little samey, like there are so many where it's basically just turn the thing. Of course, the game does have a way to make even similar microgames distinct and memorable from one another. You see, while there's definitely a process and a lot to consider when putting together a microgame, it's not like these concepts are taking a whole lot of brain power to think up. Remove objects, escape the thing, knock this thing over, plug the hole. They're incredibly basic. What makes these microgames truly memorable is the unique jokes, scenario, and art styles that each one tends to have, like being in Wario's bowels, running from a boulder, knocking over this weird looking Wario thing, standing on a stick, plug the nose. Ew, disgusting. It makes these overall basic games very memorable. So putting these together, these microgames, seems simple, and to some degree it is. I don't think it takes a whole lot of creative juices to make one microgame, but there's just so many different scenarios and ideas that's what ultimately makes it impressive. Makes me just wonder how many microgames have been scrapped during the development of these games. There must be thousands. Apparently during the development of the first game, they would put their ideas on post-it notes and put on the director's Hirofumi Matsuka's desk. Sorry, I pronounced that wrong probably. People from outside the development team would also leave their own ideas in too. I imagine it must have been fun to brainstorm wacky ideas for the game. I wonder if they still use that method for games now. Of course, there's also the boss microgames, which act more like traditional minigames. They're still pretty similar in design philosophy as the rest though, but they're just made slightly more complex, usually just having 3 different phases throughout the game. But aside from that, they're pretty similar. Well, that's it, right? That's all goes into making a microgame. Nothing more to discuss. No. There is more to it than that. A microgame by itself would be dull. You need to do something more. Hence why these microgames are put into a random assortment of a bunch, and you get to play them in rapid succession to see how long you can last. This is what the WarioWare series is all about. Playing these microgames as they get quicker and harder and seeing how long you can last without messing up a certain amount of times. It's a high score based game essentially, and it's trying to beat your own personal best, and that can always be a fun time. The variety between the microgames is also what helps them keep from getting bland and not bored, since you're always trying to accomplish something different like every 10 seconds. And get it together, this is taken to the next level where there's not only a variety of games, but a variety of characters to play them as, making just an endless number of combinations helping enhance the replay value. Of course, what's a party game if there's no modes to play friends with? That's what brings us to the variety games. You play against a group of friends and see who can get the most stars. There's one where you play like hot potato, one where you play hockey, one where you work together but the most valuable player gets the point, etc. They're fun, but they're pretty self-explanatory. I bring it up because it just shows how different and unique the setups for playing these microgames can be. They're just super malleable, probably why the series has been able to last this long and stayed fresh throughout. For the final topic, I want to bring up the Wario Cup. Each week there's like a unique stipulation that you must complete, whether it be a time limit, speed, certain characters, certain microgames. It's such a smart idea. The Wario Cup also has where you can try to climb like higher and higher on the leaderboard to show the rest of the losers who the real Wario champion is. People will love you. They'll come up and ask for your autograph. You'll be swarmed by paparazzi, in which you'll be like pushed to your limit and attack one of them, which will lead to your arrest for assault. But you're still the Wario Cup champion. They can't take that away from you. So in the end, you still won. There's so many different unique setups here, like controlling 2 characters at once. That's such a cool idea. Makes me wish that was a separate mode in the real game. The challenges change every week as well, so it gives you an incentive to come back every week. And you can play older challenges whenever you want, which is pretty cool. WarioWare has always been one of the more unique video game series out there. Sure, when you look at it at the surface, you're playing incredibly short microgames in quick succession, but it's how they use that setup and how unique the games are around it that gives this series its appeal. Well, that was WarioWare. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but I do have one more question. Where's Wario Land? Oh, here it is. It's in Ohio. Well, I guess that answers that question.